Hi Chakits, I have been following you and watching your YouTube channel for years.
I have decided to finally relocate to Las Vegas and want to start a new chapter in my life. I know you're the perfect realtor to help guide me to find my next dream home. I am looking for a modern kitchen, large backyard with a pool and a golf course community.
My name is Chakits Krulsawat with Simply Vegas, a licensed real estate agent out here in Las Vegas, Nevada. I help buyers like this all the time, so if you're looking for a licensed professional, give us a call at 702-319-1092 or visit lvhomeexperts.com. Buying a home starts here. Is your credit score holding you back from purchasing a home? GC Credit Coaches is a repair company that's made easy. Their goal is to challenge and remove all negative errors that hurt your credit score. On average, GC clients see about 10.2 negative items removed over 4 months. Start improving your credit score today with a simple 2-minute online enrollment for a free consultation and a complete credit audit. GC Credit Coaches offers competitive monthly pricing, no contracts, no hidden fees, and the service stops once you are satisfied. GC Credit Coaches removes inquiries, collections, charge-off bankruptcies, and repossessions. Don't forget to visit gccreditcoaches.com.
You focus mainly on video with coaching, or do you do?
I do a bunch of stuff. We're actually live right now. What were you saying?
Do you coach just with on how to grow your video presence, or are you doing?
Oh yeah, so I actually have a coaching program where we coach people on how to make money through YouTube, but how to scale your business through YouTube and how to get people to like you.
Yep.
Like call to actions, there's like some, like techniques and tricks where people just reach on out to you because it's all about engagement.
Yep.
But anyway, we're actually live on the LV Home Experts podcast. So we got Zachary. How do you pronounce your last name? I didn't want to destroy it.
Yeah, it's a doozy. Walkerlieb.
Walkerlieb. Okay, so I got the Walker. I was going to say Walkerlieb.
Walkerlieb. Yep.
Okay, Walkerlieb. Okay, so I got it right. So I want to start off by really introducing yourself to the audience because a lot of the people out here don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And I don't really get too many guests on this show that really understands the Las Vegas housing market at a macro and also a micro level. And you're also into economics. Obviously, we're sitting here and you were looking at some of the books, and we actually have kind of like the same interests. So
yeah,
I want to talk about you being a part of the GLVAR, right?
Yep.
You are the vice president of, let me take a look at the notes real quick. Advisory board, right?
Political advisory committee, and then the political affairs committee, and then I'm on BORPAC as well, which is the Board of Real Estate PAC.
Okay. So, I mean, that is so many titles. Why are you doing all that? I mean, how do you even have the time?
We're at a momentous time frame in history, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think that duty calls sometimes.
So it sounds like you almost have a passion for this, or you actually do have a passion for it.
Definitely, yeah.
Yes, I'm just selfish, so sorry, can't do it. I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
So what's your duties?
Well, on the political advisory, that's the closed committee. Mm-hmm. So that's an internal one where we discuss what we are in agreement with legislatively in terms of ballot initiatives, political policy that real estate would have. And then we have political affairs. Mm-hmm. That's the open committee. That's the front-facing stuff where, we're bringing education to the real estate population. So, we've had the Vegas Chamber, LVGA, our development authority, Asian Chamber, although that's what was there last time. This upcoming one, we're going to have rent control talked about. We're going to have education day. We're going to expose people to stuff that they wouldn't otherwise see. And so we're trying to change it up this year. And
So it's all about education.
the political affairs one that's forward facing is all about education. Yep.
Okay. Do agents actually attend these type of meetings?
Packed house.
Really?
Yep.
Huh. Maybe I need to start going.
Yeah.
I might learn something.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, the next one, I'm going to have to go now.
Yeah.
I want to see what the experience is like.
It'll be good.
And how long have you been selling real estate?
This is my 13th year.
13 years. So you basically got into the market the same time I did.
Yeah.
I think it was probably like 2009, 2008.
I was 11. So I was
2011?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I was selling real estate a lot longer. Now I'm really showing my age.
Yeah. 2011.
Okay, so you actually got in when market had tanked, and now you could possibly start to buy homes around 2012, 13 at great pricing.
My average price point my first year was $72,500.
Oh my gosh. Imagine that commission. I think one of my first commissions
Yep.
were like $800, and you know what? I thought I was $1 million listing.
Oh yeah. I worked a short sale for like 8 months. The bank dropped the commission at the end of the day from 2.5% to 2%. And I split with my brokerage.
Oh my.
And I think I walked away with like $300 or $400.
But you know what? You didn't care because you got the deal done.
Oh, it was brutal. I was so mad.
Dude, I can't believe you were negotiating those deals yourself directly with the bank.
Well, because I mean, when we were doing short sales, you're doing the whole short sale process. I wasn't negotiating the short sale.
Okay. So did you hire an attorney or you had a third
Yeah,
party?
we hired the
Okay.
attorneys. I forget who it was back in the day. We had a pretty good attorney that was handling most of them.
During the short sale days, I actually got pretty lucky. I partnered up with an attorney, and I was a listing agent, and I basically took over her whole account. So it worked
That's
out very
awesome,
well.
yeah.
So I was very blessed in that field, and we did a lot of strategic short sales for investors. So I was very happy with that. Got to learn that process, and we got into the bank-owned properties where we had over 18,000 homes. And I remember driving down zip code 89101 where I bought one of my first investment properties. These things, honestly, were going for about like $20,000. And I was like, who the hell is going to buy down here? And I ran across one of my good friends, and he did a lot of short sales. His name was Richard Emmanuel. He's still in the business today. And during this time period, I think he was doing like over 140 transactions a year in short sales, right? And he was like, you got to buy down here. I'm like, I would never buy down there. This place is looking like a shithole to me,
Yeah.
right? And he finally got me into one of the first deals. And I remember buying my first investment property. It was only like $16,000.
Yeah.
But I probably had to put like $70,000 into it for the rehab. But I probably could have got it a little bit cheaper on the rehab side, but it was my first flip. And I still own that property today.
Yeah.
And it cash flows very well. And now the home is worth about $450,000.
Imagine if you had that opportunity. all
And
over
the thing
again.
about it was I should have bought more.
Of course, yeah. Who would have known?
Okay.
I mean, remember Vegas was crazy until like 2014, 2015. We were still dead.
Yes.
We were not a roaring market. Downtown Summerlin was sticks up in the air.
Yeah.
I mean, it took us a long time to bounce back. So
Now, I want to get into your perspective, okay?
yeah.
Your assessment of what's going on right now with the current Las Vegas housing market.
Las Vegas is a phenomenal city.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we're dealing with all of the federal problems. Otherwise, we would be an amazing economy.
Okay.
And so there's a lot to that, right? There's federal influence in a multitude of different arenas. The federal government owns a significant amount of our land. That's something I'd love to talk to you about. I think it's hindering homeowner affordability here in Las Vegas unnaturally. It's also hindering our economic growth. You know, so if you talk to LVGA about why businesses move here or won't move here, but move to places like Texas. So like Tesla's a great example. Would you rather move to Southern Nevada or would you rather move to Texas? Both have great income, tax structures. Both are great states, great laws. But Texas can be like, hey, you want to move here? Here's a huge chunk of acreage and some tax incentives. We can't do that because we don't own our land. So there's a huge amount of companies that have not chosen to move to Vegas that otherwise would have, especially out of the Bay Area and LA, because we don't have ownership of the land surrounding the Las Vegas Valley, that beautiful city behind you.
Okay, so we kind of like live in a crater, right? Because there's like mountains all the way around.
Yeah.
I've noticed it's only about, 36 miles from one end to the other end. How much more land do you think we actually have? Because everywhere I drive now, it seems like there's constantly building happening, right? How much more vacant land do you think we have here within the crater?
Well, that's a deeper question. It's how much more land do we have for specific use? How much more industrial land? We have like nothing available in terms of industrial land because it's not zoned for it. So zoning is a significant problem.
Okay.
We need more industrial land. We need more warehousing, manufacturing. The quickest growing industries in Las Vegas are warehousing, manufacturing, and distribution. That's largely because we've moved away from China as being our largest trading partner to Mexico and Canada. It's called nearshoring, if you've looked up stuff like that. So now roadways are incredibly important. The ports out of LA that shipped all the stuff from China into the United States is no longer where goods are being distributed across. I mean, it still is, obviously, but it's slowly changing over to roadways. Well, what's the hub of the Southwest? You've got LA, San Francisco, Reno, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, Denver. It all connects back to Las Vegas. Warehousing and distribution, manufacturing could be an incredible industry here, but we need the land. So there's a lot of land available for us to do that. Apex has been greatly hindered, largely because of utilities and cost to get utilities out there. There's an enormous amount of land.
That's fascinating that you see that, because I work with a commercial agent. He's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And a lot of his clients are trying to get, warehouse, and it's very hard to get
Doesn't
warehouse.
exist. Yeah.
And if you do get it, right, the leases are pretty high because it is in high demand.
Supply and demand. There's nothing available.
That's fascinating that you say that. Now, as far as single family residence is concerned, kind of break that down. What's your analysis right now on that?
Well, so let me talk about the land, then I'll go into the single family too. So when the federal government releases land, they release some housing land. When they release land, they released it up against Red Rock. Well, what is that? That's all going to be $1 million property when they build it.
And that's all Howard Hughes Corporation as well, right? So,
well, that was BLM. That was Bureau of Land Management.
Okay.
So they released a little bit more and was purchased by builders. They very rarely release like good real estate land that can be developed into single family homes. Like they should be releasing all of Kyle Canyon, that Sheep Mountain range, that whole swath out there should be released to us.
Why do you think they're holding off on that?
Because it's a money and control mechanism for them.
Okay.
Nevada needs our land. It's the number one most important uniting issue for everyone. Everyone that is watching this should take it to their congressman, should start discussing it with their friends, their family. Nevada has no control of our land. It is the single most impactful thing that if we changed it and we got control of our land, it would change the landscape of Nevada and Las Vegas, period. And so I hope that everyone engages in it, learns about it, learns all the benefits that can come from it, and even the consequences if you want to disagree. But it is the single most important issue, and I hope I expose it to people.
So it sounds like what you're saying is like the federal government is kind of dangling the carrot in front of the face of the city and taking control over the city.
The federal government controls our destiny.
Yeah.
Understand that. The federal government controls our economic destiny and the affordability of Las Vegans in terms of their housing, in terms of their income potential. The federal government controls our destiny and our future. It is a shame that we have allowed this to go on as long as we have. So you got to also tack on the historical factors here. The federal government bombed the living hell out of the Nevada desert. A lot of people in the world think, we only dropped 2 nuclear weapons ever in Japan. That's not the case. We tested 1,000 nuclear weapons in the desert just north of Las Vegas. We dropped them in our desert. And then what do they do after that? They give us Yucca Mountain and all of the nation's nuclear waste. They use Nevada as a dumping ground. And now, obviously, there's a lot of great stuff with nuclear energy that can be discussed, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the federal government using and abusing us and not letting us live freely with our own economic destiny. We need control of our land.
Wow, that's pretty deep.
So think about this. You want cheap, affordable housing? Go get cheap land and let builders build on that. A huge portion of builders' cost is the land.
Now, let's just say federal government donates some land. How much cheaper do you think builders will discount, because at the end of the day, the supply and demand is not. I mean, it's not
Yeah,
there.
there's still going to be economic pressure to.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Like, obviously, you're still capitalistic. You're gonna try and take as much profit as possible, but there's a threshold there that could drop costs significantly. Because remember, they're building up against Red Rock National Park. That's prime. That's prime. You have to, by nature of the cost of the land, build the most expensive properties.
Yeah.
Where if you're building out closer to Sloan, you're not going to be building the most expensive properties. The natural course of it would probably be the LA-ification of Las Vegas, where we sprawl a little bit more than just maintaining in what you called the crater. We would advance out and homes would become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. We're not allowed to do that. And so homes are becoming astronomically expensive for the median wages we discussed off air.
That is pretty fascinating. I never thought about it that way. So we definitely need to release some land.
Yes.
That's where we got to start.
That's number one.
Okay. Number two is we have to have more commercial. We have to do rezoning, you're saying.
Yep.
Okay. So that seems like it would work. What about jobs and stuff like that?
Well, again, so LVGA and our Economic Development Authority, they're trying to entertain these incredible companies that are thinking about moving here.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult. So, you know, taxes are more of an incentive structure. This is a deeper issue if we want to go into that. But they're more of an incentive structure than they are an income vehicle for the government. So, you know, you've probably heard Kiyosaki and his wife talk about this. You're incentivized to build housing. You're incentivized to produce food. You're incentivized to do that through the tax write-offs and tax incentives and stuff like that. Because the government doesn't have the capacity to do that. So they incentivize private industry through the mechanism of taxes and therefore the lowering of your taxes if you do something that would be beneficial to society at large. And so when economic development authorities, GOED or LVGA, or those in other states are entertaining, like you remember the film industry credit? This is a great example. We were giving them a tax credit for them to move the film industry here. Or the same with like the A's or the Raiders. You give them a tax credit or something like that. We don't have an income tax in our state, so we don't have the incentive structure to say, well, we're going to drop your taxes for 10 years to be here. We just don't have the same incentive structure as someone who has a state income tax or a myriad of other taxes in their state. We don't have the ability to drop it. We're at zero. So we have to come up with other means of incentivizing them. And it's very difficult. That's why you have these interesting tax credits that were proposed for the film industry to try and draw them here. But at the end of the day, it was just too difficult of a deal.
So the numbers are not working out. It's not making any sense.
Right. So you need things like land as the incentive structure because our tax structure isn't incentivizing enough for major companies to move here. That being said, cost of living is an incentive. No warehousing tax, no corporate income tax, no income tax. All those things are big incentives for people to move here, but we could be doing better.
So wouldn't you think the federal government at this point would release land? And why are they not doing it if it makes sense? Because it would be a win-win situation for everybody, right? What's your thoughts? I mean, we can go on and on this.
So we actually had Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, to her credit, proposed a land bill. And it was like 260,000 acres or something like that. Our own Clark County Commission shut it down.
Why would they shut it down?
Because they weren't getting enough of a certain type of land that they wanted. It's asinine. We need to vote these people out. This is why you need an understanding of your local politics. Everyone in the Clark County Commission should be removed.
Oh, like that?
Everyone.
Wow, that's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, especially Justin Jones.
Okay, well, I didn't realize you were so deep into this. This is getting a little bit interesting. Okay, so let's jump back to your analysis on the current housing market. So we talked about the commercial side. We talked about the land. Where are we currently at right now with the housing market?
Well, we're in a very painful point where housing affordability has escaped the majority of home buyers, and that's why we're experiencing an incredible low sales volume that's not typical to the rest of the country. So when you look at the rest of the country, they've only fallen a small percentage in terms of sales volume.
Yeah.
Vegas is extreme, which is kind of astonishing that no news articles pick this up. Yes, we talked about, the sales volume was the lowest since 2008 and worst in 30 years in some areas. We've talked about it, but what we haven't done is parse that out into a meaningful area. So, we would always sell between 4,000 and 4,500 single family homes every month for over a decade in Las Vegas, in the Valley, not Pahrump and Mesquite and all that stuff. But in the Valley, that's how many homes we'd sell, give or take a couple hundred. And then in December, we closed 1,150. So a quarter of the sales volume. That is the worst in the country. It was in many ways, for a lot of people, title, lenders, real estate agents, it was an economic depression in the real estate market, despite prices not going down. It was a silent collapse in many ways. We silently collapsed. You didn't see prices go, but the industry was majorly impacted. You got to remember, GDP is 16% real estate. 16% real estate. So we were hit hard. We're at a quarter of our sales volume. Now, if you parse that out and you go even further, 800 of those 1,150 home sales were below 500,000. Then you go 500,000 to $1 million, and that's the next 200 and something homes. You go over $1 million. We only had 70 home sales over $1 million in Las Vegas in the month of November. 70. Wow. And we used to have 700. So we're at 1/10 of our sales volume in the luxury space. Now, again, luxury hasn't lost a lot of its value. Value has maintained. Sales volume has been the biggest issue. So we're reaching a point where homeowner affordability is near impossible for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You look at monthly payments on a $600,000 house and you go, oh. You look at $1 million house, $2 million house. People moving up, you're successful in your career, you're doing well, you're like, oh man, I'm going to go buy that $3 million house. What's that look like?
Yeah.
You tell me I'm paying that each month and I'm putting down $750,000 and I'm still paying that? So it's becoming extreme, and it's largely due to government policy, inflation, and what's unfolded federally. I think we're in a very scary state financially.
Would you say the market is kind of like a stagflation, where things are not really moving, but things are going up in price?
I think that there's sectors of the economy that are going to inflate, and I think there's sectors of the economy that are going to deflate. AI and computer technologies are going to deflate certain things. They're going to become less expensive as efficiency potentially exponentially expands. So you could have a deflation occur in certain segments of the market. When it comes to assets, things like residential real estate, gold, Bitcoin today, there's going to be some interesting,
60,000.
There's going to be, commodities in general, to me, seem a little bit more of a secure place for capital. I think we're going to be facing something that we haven't ever experienced before, which is inflation and deflation occurring in different segments of the market at different times. I think we're going to have a rolling economic recession that could potentially be very deep.
Now, when you say recession, are you talking about 3 consecutive quarters?
I think that we're already in a recession in many ways. Look at the real estate industry, what we just talked about. 16% of our GDP, a quarter of its sales volume. So we are already in a recession in our industry and have been for some time.
Yeah.
You go to commercial real estate and you go into the office world, get ready, buddy. I mean, when they start defaulting, that's going to be very impactful, especially on regional banks. 83% of commercial office loans are held at regional banks. Wow. Silicon Valley Bank, First Republic, all of these that were tested or fell last year, get ready because they're going to be tested again. And so what's happening is there's a consolidation of wealth to the highest end. That is what is going to occur over a period of time in single family and all asset classes. It is going to be a consolidation of wealth through the mechanism of inflation and bureaucratic regulation. The federal government is failing us on a mass scale. They're ripping the wealth away from the American people.
So what you're saying is there's no more middle class. It's you have the average person probably making less than 50, 60, 70, 80,000, then you're going to have super wealthy at this point.
Correct.
That's unbelievable.
Look at California.
And I can see that. And that's the reason why a lot of people are repositioning. And I think a lot of people nowadays, especially when we have over, baby boomers, like over 10,000 baby boomers retiring every single day, they're starting to look at their total assets, their income. They're like repositioning. They're like, where can I move to? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of them are coming out here, people from California, just like I did with clients from like Hawaii. They're just like, I can't live here.
Yeah.
So now what's happening is you have all these people coming out here. The supply is so low, but the demand is so high because everybody wants to get in, right? Especially if you sold your home and you can come out here and you can pay for a home cash. You basically push out all the people that lived here 5 to 10 years where they've been trying to save money or they're trying to get ahead. And now home pricing is back up to the 450. And I guarantee probably in the next 16 months, we're probably going to be back at the 485 range. Like, that's where I see where this market is going. And it has to do with the supply chain, right? And again, this probably goes back to what you said, that the federal government probably has to release more land.
Yeah, they're messing up in so many different areas that it's just shocking.
And I like the fact that how you look at real estate at a local level, but then how important it is at a micro level too as well, and how that affects the macro level affects the micro level.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it all intertwines. It all intertwines so deeply.
Now, let's talk about Jerome Powell is talking about, dropping interest rates. How will that actually affect the market? Because I don't see him dropping rates, half a point or 1%. Like, that's unheard of. That's not going to happen.
So he said his target's going to be down to what, 4.6 from 5.25. So, think about that in terms of, just reflect that in terms of mortgage interest rates. You're talking about a 0.5% to 0.75%.
Yeah.
Now that's meaningful, right? So if you go off of 7% and you go down to 6.25%, the market moves again. We saw that. So off of that 1,100 low in sales volume, the next month we had a 60% increase in sales volume. We went up to over 1,900 sales. The second that we were like, oh God, we got some relief. Interest rates are going to drop. We got into the 6s. Everyone was rocking and we were getting seller concessions, buying those bad boys down into the 5s. People moved. And so we went back up to over 1,900 home sales like that. That's how fast interest rates impacted our market. Prices didn't skyrocket, but we moved. Volume started happening again. So it's not going to be extremely impactful, and we're not going to go back up to 4,500 single-family home sales anytime soon, but we are going to move as a market.
That's crazy. All right, you got a lot of great information. Let's keep going.
Let's rock.
All right, so you think the Feds are going to drop it by 1/4 of a point, you said?
No, I think a little bit more than 1/4 of a point.
Okay.
Is what they're stating. I think that there's the potential that this is out there. There's the potential that we are facing an economic perfect storm. Mm-hmm. In which case, all bets are off.
I mean, here's the thing. You can't drop it too fast, and you also can't drop it too much, because then we all come back out, we start buying, you're printing more money. Then what happens is things are just going to get more and more expensive. So I guess where is that fine line? You know what I'm saying? Also, their inflation, their target inflation is what, 2%? And I think we're at 4% right now.
Yeah, they're saying they're going to get down to 2.5 or 2.4% by the end of 2024.
I don't think that's going to happen, dude. Because
it's impossible.
Yeah, there's just no way, right? Because I think they now calculate with core CPI or core CPE, right?
CPI, core CPI, yeah.
Okay. Because honestly, living out here nowadays, I look at the cost of living and I just don't know how people are actually doing it. It's just not making any sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, so the most important thing to understand about inflation is it's a tax on the poor.
Yeah.
So the government cannot add new taxes, or they're unwilling to. They're unwilling to come out and say, we want to expand the bureaucracy. We want to expand government's influence and role in your lives, and therefore we're going to tax you more. And, we're already kind of tapping the higher ends of society with our tax level. We're not going to be taxing them at 70%. No one's going to accept that. So where do we get the money from? Well, we get it from the poor and the middle class. How do we do that? Well, we print money. So I'm unable to fund the war in Ukraine or some government program that whatever you want to choose, I'm unable to fund it, but I really want to do it.
Yeah.
I'm a bureaucrat and I really want to do it.
Yeah.
So how do I get that money? Can't raise taxes, right? So you go, well, I'll just print the money. I'll print the money because I have that mechanism available to me. So I print the money. And then what happens? We inflate. And who does that impact most? The poor and the middle class, especially those who don't own assets that will appreciate with the inflation that unfolds. And so you steal the wealth through the mechanism of inflation rather than the mechanism of tax of the poor and the middle class by the printing of the dollar for your unfunded programs in the federal government. So
It's slavery, basically.
It is slavery.
At the end of the day.
the federal government has, and this is what's astonishing to me, that we're not looking at the federal government as abusing our poor and middle class right now.
Mm-hmm.
The people should be paying very close attention to what the federal government is doing. They are not your savior. These are bureaucrats stealing your wealth, stealing your power, and stealing your destinies.
So as a average person like myself, because when you print more and more money, basically what you're saying is you're creating inflation. That's the reason why things are getting more expensive, including, cars, houses, and all that. If I'm just an average person just watching this, right, I have 2 kids, I have a car, and I'm working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. How do I get ahead at this point? Because you're pretty much trapped at this point to society.
It's a great question. You either have to take an enormous amount of risk, work an incredible amount of hours, or ride this system out. I think the American dream is being lost as we speak. We're witnessing it unfold.
So
we need the people. The people need the power returned to them, both in an existential way and in a legislative way. This is a nation of the people, governed by the people. And currently we have relinquished all of our influence and power to those that sit above us in faraway offices.
why do you think a lot of people just kind of sit in silence versus getting out there to the vote? And
Because
doing
things
their
are
part?
too big and they're made to appear too big.
Yeah.
It's loud right now. There's no rock in the center of it also. And so whatever side of the aisle that you're on, to your eyes, you're facing something that is enormous. You're facing climate change. You're facing income inequality. You're facing too high of taxes, too huge of regulations. Marxism is knocking at our door. Social unrest, whatever it is, to you, it is likely an enormous problem. And so how do you attend to something with such a huge nature? The only way to attend to it is to back a vehicle that in your eyes is large enough to attend to that problem. And so you say, well, the federal government is the only thing, or your state government, or whatever it is the only thing that could match that size and scale of the issue that I perceive as facing our world. And so you relinquish your power, you relinquish your influence, you relinquish your duty and responsibility to the federal government or the government in general and the bureaucracy to say, you take on the problem. And instead of you taking that personal responsibility on and attending to climate change, attending to income inequality, attending to lack of faith in our communities, attending to lack of education in our communities, attending to whatever it is that is most important to you, you relinquish it, which is a natural thing because you're viewing the problem as so huge that you're saying, I need to have something that is going to do this for me. And the consequence of that is what we're seeing. We have lost touch with that which is most important to us, which is me and you. It's our community. It's those beautiful people that live in these homes that are sitting behind you in that picture. When you have a rock, when you have something that you're going for, the goal, whatever it is that we agree to as a community, it means that we go in that together. We can bounce ideas and where we succeed, fail, what's right, what's righteous, what's wrong, off of each other. We communicate, we connect, we build beautiful things. That is America. That is life. That is nature.
Man, that's pretty deep.
And yet we have relinquished all of that power. We need to return to our community. We need to return to our families. We need to return to us having the power. We need to come together and we need to put a rock out in front of us, a beacon. We need to be the light so that we can get people behind us and start moving in a direction that we all want. The power to change this world is within our hands. This is something that all of the great prophets have always told us, all of them. Martin Luther King, be the light. Mother Teresa, love begins in the home. Mahatma Gandhi, be the change you want to see in the world. It is the most true thing across all cultures. You are the light.
You think part of the problem is because government gives out money to the poor and assists the poor, and you have certain politicians get elected for those reasons?
That's well-meaning, right?
Yeah.
They're not entering it going, I'm going to gain power by giving money to the poor. And they're actually
or
not...
like, vote for me. Hey, this is what I'm going to do.
Well, that's
we're gonna
Biden
take
with
care
like
of
student
you.
loan forgiveness and stuff like that. Now, I don't think all of those people are ill-intended. So sometimes the worst of consequences come from the best of intents.
Yeah.
I think that they don't understand the consequence of what they've done with the inflating of the dollar by printing. And in their eyes, they were helping the poor. They were adding to the support system that exists within our society. And they were saying, well, we need more government funding for this. Here's your $1,200 check during COVID. Here, blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is, the thing that they think is going to help you, it actually ends up hurting the poor and the middle class more.
It solves a problem right there and then, but later on down the line, you feel the effects through inflation.
Here's the other reality of this. The money that is printed, it flows to the top. It does not come down.
Yeah.
This money that was printed, it goes to the bureaucracy. It goes to the management. It goes to the system. It does not go to the people. So we've given it to them. We've given them the power to the people. Is that the reason why we've
created so many different type of government jobs and agencies?
Yeah, you look at the jobs reports, the majority is government jobs.
No, that's my point.
There's 4 million men between the ages of 25 and 45 that have not re-entered the workforce after COVID. 4 million men.
That's unbelievable.
And they're not counted in the unemployment numbers because they're no longer seeking employment. They have just left. They've given up. 4 million men in the United States are no longer even interested in employment.
And from what I know is for when they do count unemployment, they're also counting part-time jobs too as well, right?
Yep, part-time jobs.
So the numbers are kind of fictitious at the same time.
Yes, very much so.
Even just like core CPI, I've noticed they keep changing it or they will always revise it.
Correct.
Which is kind of fascinating, but nobody ever talks about that for some reason. Like when they come out, I'm like, okay, the numbers look good, but every once in a while I'll go back and I'll look and I'm like, wait, that's not what they said. It's changed.
Right.
But everybody has already moved on, so nobody cares at that point. And I always thought that was kind of fascinating. It just seems like we're like so controlled by government. And at the end of the day, as long as you understand what is going on, and in this world, I feel like it's just a game. And as long as you understand how to play the game, you still have the opportunity to win.
I think that people need to understand one thing. You have power. Mm-hmm. Your life has meaning. You are a gift.
That's pretty deep.
And until people realize how important their life is, how much they can do with the people that they interact with on a daily basis, one more hug, one more I love you, one more kind gesture, one more merciful act where someone is being hard and you give them grace. What does that ripple into? What is the eternal impact of that? Do they go home and be nicer to their kids and their wife because you were kind to them when you could have been mean? How does that ripple? You don't know. And so you should enter each moment with love. You should be compassionate, And you should realize the enormous power that that has. Your life is the most important thing. From that stems every good that this world can see. The more that you burden yourself with, the more you're willing to take up a cross and shoulder, the better the world can be. Whether you see that or not, whether you are a meek individual who has not achieved levels of success that you have previously wanted or desired, start now. Start with that one gesture, because the future of the world is in your hands. It is not in a far-off office away from you. It is within you.
So how does somebody stay consistent like that? Because I do go through those problems where, you know, I listen to audiobooks, I'm motivated, I always try to do the right thing, and just like you said, you know, show people respect. I go through that, and there's just some days where I'm just having a bad day. But how does somebody stay consistent? That's kind of fascinating.
Well, this might be the most controversial answer that I give out of the whole day, and
I know we're going deep with this, guys, but
and this is going to be my. After a long and winding road, I have somehow found myself returning to God.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because of the pains that I am experiencing and I see other people experiencing.
Yeah.
I have deep empathy for what is going on despite my own personal success.
Yeah.
I am seeing pain right now. I am seeing meaninglessness. I am seeing suffering. And I am seeing people have no way out. Not knowing how to survive, not knowing what to do next, not knowing how they're going to make that mortgage payment or car payment. There is pain. And as that has built and built and built, and truth has escaped us as a society, there is no pillar anymore. And I look at the political world and I say, well, what is the political solution? Let's say all of my political ideologies go into existence and I can somehow manifest them. It's going to leave 50% of the country upset, divided, in pain. And so I don't know if there's a political solution right now. And so what's beyond political? It's the question that I started asking. What's beyond the things that we could divide ourselves over easily? Where does truth exist? Where can I find meaning? Where can I find meaning in the suffering that exists within life? And it led me to God. The only thing that I can say is that I have begun to pray daily. And it's provided a pathway for me to be more merciful, to see love, and to see God in each person. It is providing me the ability to be the light within my own world. I think we've lost faith. We've lost sight of God. God is the one true pillar. In your own way. You don't have to be a certain religion.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that that is where truth exists.
Now, we got a couple more minutes. I want to ask you this. Where do you see the Las Vegas housing market in the next 24 months? What's your opinion?
It largely depends on what happens with our economy.
Based upon what's going on right now.
Well, there really is two significant potentials. I mean, we could be facing something akin to the Great Depression. I'll give you an answer of why. Sorry. So there's something called M2 money supply. M2 money supply has decreased 4 times in our nation's history. You had 3 previous times, all of which resulted in a depression greater than 10% unemployment.
Okay.
The last time it happened was the Great Depression, and it decreased about 12%, and we had the Great Depression. They're over 30% unemployment. The previous 2 times, it was about 2%. Money supply in 2022 decreased by 4%.
Okay.
There's a vast amount of evidence that there's something that is building that looks troubling in our financial world. If the recession is deep enough, or if it's a depression and it's it's large enough and vast enough and enough people lose their jobs and the economy slows down enough, there's absolutely the potential that housing pulls back with it, because it simply becomes entirely unaffordable for someone. And all that equity that people are sitting on, the $250,000 of equity in a home right now, people are going to start tapping it because they've lost their job, because they're in financial ruin. They'll start tapping that and they'll sell at whatever threshold is necessary to move. So there is a possibility where you have something deep that exists. If we just trend it out from today forward, housing looks very strong over the next 24 months. We look good. Again, it's largely a supply and demand issue. We simply did not build the amount of homes that was appropriate for Las Vegas, and we are still deeply in need. You got to understand too that, when we build new homes, we build 500, 600, 700, 800, 900 million plus homes. Those are the new homes that we're building. We're not restocking the $300,000 starter homes. We're not restocking those. We haven't for years. So, you might be able to get a $350,000 townhome out in Providence or Inspirada or something like that, brand new, but very few and far between. And so you start getting into the 400,000 or 500,000. That's what's being replenished. All of the available inventory that exists currently is being eaten up and has been eaten up by investors over the course of 15 years. An article came out in Enterprise, 45% of the available inventory is non-owner occupied.
45% in Enterprise?
That was the article.
Who wrote that article?
I think it's Wall Street Journal. Blake Gwynn, if you're watching, shoot me a text.
Yeah, let's bring you on this podcast.
Yeah.
45%.
So you got to understand that the $500,000 and below inventory is disappearing, whether it's 45% or 20%, doesn't much matter. It's slowly disappearing over time. It's being eaten up and eaten up and eaten up. It will not come back to market in large part. Those are investors that will never sell. They'll never put it back into the pool. It'll always be an investment property. And so it will cease to exist. And as that supply decreases and decreases and decreases, it's going to eventually go away, and you'll have the LA market over a 5-10 year run. So over a 5-10 year run, absent massive geopolitical or financial issues, Las Vegas is going to be California.
Eventually. And I totally believe what you're saying. Now, here's the thing. I have liquidated a couple properties. Mm-hmm. Okay. I feel like that the market should start to slow down. I feel like maybe 20%, but I don't know. I'm just guessing, right? Mm-hmm. Based upon what's going on. But I'm looking on both sides of the edge of this coin here. Okay. I've got my powder dry. Do I jump back into the marketplace and buy properties and hold on? Or I look on the other side. Should I just hold on to see what happens? And there's a lot of people out there right now, just with cash, sitting on the sidelines.
Now, are you an investor or are you a
an
home
investor?
Buyer? Yeah, sit on the sideline.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe I did make the right choice, York. But we'll see, because I've been wrong multiple times. Because honestly, the way that things were going, they were printing money, I thought this market would have a downturn like 3 years ago.
Well, we did have a downturn.
No, I'm talking about like a real downturn.
Yeah. You know how few and far between a real estate downturn is?
Well, the cycles of what, every 9 to 12 years?
Yeah, but when it happens, we fall 2%, 3%.
Yeah.
In 2023, we fell 7%. In some zip codes, we fell 15%.
Which is true.
So we fell more than normal. We are normal historical thing. We are
I think this is where I'm at. The numbers just don't make any sense.
Correct.
Because I'm chasing against inflation, but also I have some money in the bank and I'm losing probably like almost $90,000 a year towards inflation.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, okay, I'm sitting dry, but if I buy this property, my returns are like
crap,
2%. Like,
yeah,
I'm still not making any money.
Yeah, we'll put it into a CD and make 5-6%.
Which is I can, but also I don't want to tie it up, because just in case I need that money, I want to be ready to go. Yeah. So How do you deal with an investor like that? What kind of advice could you give somebody like that?
It depends on their knowledge base. Like if they understand real estate really well. I'm working with a guy right now. He was one of my first clients ever, and I bought residential real estate with him. I bought 14 homes with him.
Yeah, but this was probably about what, 13 years ago?
Yeah, no, so I'll give you his trajectory. And he's friends with a guy named Mike Niger. Mike Niger is a massive real estate owner across the United States. I think he owns over like 20,000 doors.
Oh, wow. Single family residence.
And condos and apartments. A mix, but largely apartment complexes now.
Okay.
I met the guy that I'm referring to when he was like 32. Now he's like 42. He's buying multifamily left and right now in Las Vegas, as much as he can get his hands on off market, and big stuff. And so,
like 100 units, 200 units. Is that what he's buying?
Yeah, oh yeah, he would buy it. So there are people right now that are buying multifamily in spades across the country. You got to understand this too. Like, there's still great returns to be had in other areas of the country that aren't Las Vegas in residential real estate.
Which is true, because I did go out to Kansas to look at a 30 unit, but again, I just felt like the numbers didn't work out.
Go down to like South Carolina or something like that. There's people getting 10+% cap right now. I mean, you could.
Is that like D class?
No.
Really?
No. Yes.
Now here's the thing. This is where I'm at with that. Is it also worth the time and effort for a 30 unit? Because that probably doesn't make any sense, especially when it's across the country. Now, if I bought 100 units, that would probably make sense, right?
Yeah, like if you're not an experienced investor, don't necessarily go to other states.
That's my point.
Because you don't know the product. Like I saw this one deal in North Dakota, and I was like, oh my God, it's returning 40%. Dove into the numbers, clearing out snow each year. Was like $20,000 or something like that, and I was like, now I'm negative. So, but I just on the surface level, I looked at the sheet and I was like, oh my God, this is an incredible deal. I could buy.
Is something wrong with this property? Yeah.
And then I dive in, and it was a terrible deal. So yes, unless you know the market, and especially if you're new, don't do that. I think there's still incredible vehicles to invest in.
I mean,
right
there's okay deals, but I feel like with multifamily, there's going to be a couple that actually come down the pipeline where you're going to get some really good deals, because remember, we got 3-year, 5-year, 7-year loans, and that's around the corner. It's coming due. And I'm starting to see that come down the pipeline where, like, okay, now they're starting to try to liquidate their property. They're trying to get ahead of the curve, but some of them are still unrealistic of where they are at right now.
The question, if you are a real estate investor and it is your game, is what is a more secure investment to put your money into? Is it leaving it in the bank and letting it be ripped away?
Well, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm chasing against inflation.
Is it putting it in the S&P 500 that is sitting at all-time highs?
That's not my game, so I ain't going into that.
Is it Bitcoin, Ethereum?
That's not my market. I don't know that.
So my question to you is, what's more stable, and what do you know well? Because you're asking me, what would you tell an investor? I would say, what do you know? Because if you know stocks, you've made your money investing into companies, or maybe you're in the private equity world or something like that. I would say there's a lot of opportunity in this world still, and if you have the wherewithal and you understand it well enough, you could do really well.
Yeah, as far as for a rental perspective and buy and hold, and hopefully it just keeps going up and up due to the inflation, you're kind of gambling in that source. So the way I look at it is the investment deal has to make sense. As long as I'm making enough cash flow to cover my inflation, I'm okay with that. But the numbers just don't make any sense. That's why I do have a certain percentage in, we talked about this precious metals, hedging against inflation. But real estate is my play. But for me right now, it's just keep stacking the money. But I am buying properties where we are rehabbing the properties, right? Kind of like a side gig, and just making some extra cash on the flip side. So that's kind of like where I'm at right now.
There will be a time frame in the next 12 to 24 months that if you have cash available, even if it's being eaten alive right now by inflation and sitting in your bank, there will come a time where there will be something that is an obvious choice to buy because it will be hit.
You promise?
I promise. Yeah.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Well, just I want you, don't take my word for it.
Yeah.
Warren Buffett is sitting on more cash than he's ever been sitting on.
Yeah.
Ever. Mm-hmm. Apple is sitting on an enormous amount of cash. Jeff Bezos just sold a huge amount of stock. The Waltons just sold billions of dollars worth of stock to get cash. All of these billionaires are stacking cash right now. They just did this in the last month. So, and Warren Buffett has been sitting on cash for over a year. I think like $250 billion.
So on the flip side, if you're telling me that, if somebody's watching this and they're sitting on the sidelines, first-time home buyer or thinking about purchasing a home, should I wait?
No.
Okay, tell me why.
When is going to be a better time? When interest rates fall and you're competing against 100 people for a home?
So that's where you take a look at the math. So if I bought now based upon today's interest rate and the price is a little bit lower, I'd probably be paying the same price if interest rates drop lower and I paid a higher price.
Yeah. I just went out in the northwest side of the valley, Sunstone community.
Okay.
That's out there. I just put a buyer in, 4.99% locked for 30 years on a $433,000 brand new home, 2.99% first year, 3.99% second year. I've got a great woman on my team, Nancy. She's got like 3 new homes. I've got another one on my team, Catherine Acosta. She's got like 3 or 4 new homes. They're negotiating these deals where they're getting like $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 off the builder. They're getting $15,000 towards closing costs and getting rate buy downs. Where they're getting these buy downs to like 3.99%. Locked. 4.99 locked. You're done.
Wow.
So there's options out there that if you're a first-time home buyer, and even let's go into the resale market.
Yeah.
Let's say the home's been sitting on the market for 100 days. They haven't moved. Why don't you go, you can get with like FHA and conventional, you can get 6% towards closing costs. Crazy, 9% with 25% down or more. So you can go say, I want all the money towards closing costs. I'm going to buy my rate down to frickin' 4.
Yeah.
Do it. Of course do it, because now you're going to be able to negotiate. You're going to be able to negotiate price. You're going to be able to negotiate closing costs, terms, all that stuff. You go, when rates change, you're not negotiating shit. So I would say if you're a home buyer, right now you can negotiate. I'm not saying every deal is the right deal. I'm just saying that there is a deal to be made, and you can look for it and find the opportunity. The deal that will work for you exists. Not every deal, but the deal that will work for you exists right now. You go down the road and we don't enter the perfect storm of economic peril and interest rates drop and everyone refloods the market, and you have millennials who have largely not purchased homes, and then Gen Z coming into the market who have also just begun purchasing homes. Get ready. I mean, it's going to be competitive. And I mean, we saw it just dropping into the 6s, double essentially the amount of transaction volume. You go into the 5s, whoo,
This thing is going to blow up.
It'll get mad again. It'll get crazy.
Now, if somebody wants to get started, they're looking to buy a home, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, I don't usually give out my personal cell phone.
Well, you don't have to give out your personal cell phone. I mean, obviously you have a team, you have a full staff in place. How do we get a hold of you if we want to buy a house?
I would just shoot me an email. It's Zach, Z-A-C-H, at willowmanorlv.com, W-I-L-L-O-W, M as in Mary, A-N as in Nancy, O-R-L-V.com.
Did you get all that, York? Make sure to put that in the description right there. So if you guys are interested in purchasing a home or looking to get into an investment deal, I'm sure you can help them out and walk them through the whole process.
I'd love to.
And you know what? I actually want to bring you back on the show because I want to talk about real estate at a macro level.
Great.
Because you have such a wealth of knowledge, and I could talk about this all day long.
Yeah.
But I mean, we only have an hour, so we got to end the show before these guys start clicking off.
Cool.
But Zach, I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you, man.
And let's get together.
You got it.
All right, guys. Peace. Good job, Zach.